Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. This is a collaboration video in conjunction with Rachel from Rachel and Bella Crafts and a huge variety, I think 54 other junk journaling channels. And it is the Christmas Craft Off 2023. And we're utilizing an absolutely gorgeous kit that Rachel from Rachel and Bella Crafts created. And I'll link her kickoff video below that has all the details because I'm certain I'll forget something. But essentially, it's just 30 days of inspiration from a variety of artists, at least 2 different people each day. For example, yesterday was Tina from Shabby Dabby Doodah, and then Mimi's Keepsakes. Today, it's me and Cheryl's Crafts, and then tomorrow it's My Porch Prints, and then Jackie Chimes. And it's been going on since November 1st. And the idea is just to encourage and inspire you with a variety of prompts and ideas for Christmas creating. And Cheryl and I have the prompt or the idea suggestion of it's a wrap, and it's a candy wrap kind of thing, which worked really well for me because I love making advent calendars, and I think of advent calendars and candy, even though you certainly don't have to put candy in an advent calendar. Anyway, so what I'll show you how to make is this, and then I will quickly show you different ways that you can use these, because it's a candy wrap, but it also can be used, and I'm going to use as, once the candy is out, as the date for a December daily. And again, I'll come back to that and show you how to use that in just a minute. Please do check out Rachel's initial kickoff video. It has all kinds of information, where you can get the kit, links, all the different channels and the people that are involved, what the prompts are. She has details about the incredible giveaways. There's just tons and tons of prizes available for people. I did want to mention that in order to be eligible for the prizes, to be really clear, you have to watch each video. You have to like, subscribe, and comment, and that gets you in the running for each of the different craft prizes, and there are a slew of those. So please, the link will be below for Rachel's video that kicks it off and gives all the things, all the details. So there's that. All right, it starts with the paper, and the kits are amazing. I used her Timeless Shabby Backgrounds, her Timeless Christmas collection, and then the mini ephemera. And I printed it on, let me grab that real quick. Well, maybe it won't be real quick. I printed my pieces on, for the candy wrapper part, I used the Epson presentation paper matte. There are 100 sheets. It's 8.5 by 11 size. Sorry about that glare. I'm trying to different lights to get away with the glare, but you can see there's my ring light in the background. So I used this for the bases of the candy wraps, though you can use cardstock as well if you choose to. And then for the embellishments on top, I printed those on this paper. It's the same, it almost looks the same. You just have to, this is the premium presentation paper, which is a heavier weight. It is 9 milliliters, whereas the presentation paper is 4.9 milliliters. So I used these 2 papers to print. I'll move those over. The papers themselves, I wanted the option of printing a little bit, or making the candy wraps a little bit larger or smaller, depending on what type of candy you use for your project. So this is printed on my printer, and I have just a basic HP printer. I printed the image at 5 inches by 7 inches. When you do the drop-down menu on print, it gives you the choice of a photo size, and I just choose photo size 5 by 7. So this is the standard print, and those even are a great size. And then I chose shrunk it down a little bit more so you can see the difference. And one thing that I have found in some digitals, when you shrink, because the way they're created in layers, when you shrink it, you lose some of the words or the color or the texture or some of the backgrounds. They become distorted. These do not. So if you're wanting to print in a variety of sizes, this is fabulous because it doesn't change the quality of the print and the images you see themselves if you shrink it down. So again, this is a standard size print, fill page or fit to page. No, not fit to page, fill page. And then this is at a 5 by 7. The kit comes with, well, there's several kits, I should say. There's the the shabby backgrounds and then the non-shabby backgrounds. There's tall and thin, there's collaged pages, there's just a little bit of everything. And these, because I'm going to utilize this for the cover of the mini journal that I'm making, because I wanted it to a smaller scale, because I'm working in a smaller size, I printed it at 5x7. So these are the 5x7, and then here is full-sized. And I wanted to show you the difference. This particular one has the border on it, and if that's how you print, you just trim the border off. But on this, I printed borderless. And on my printer, and I know it's a little bit different for every printer, but to the best of my understanding, all pages can be printed borderless on printers. And I just had to use the drop-down menu where it says more options. And then at the very bottom of mine, it has this sliding scale and it said print borderless. And so I just turned that on. So same thing. And I used this size to make the candy wraps because that allowed me to get what I wanted. But if you don't, you still have enough paper if you print with the border. So completely up to you. And then here's another one. Again, I shrunk it a little bit because I wanted a little bit smaller scale. And I apologize for that light. I've got lights everywhere in this room, but it's shadows are just what they are. So gorgeous, gorgeous. I loved the shabby backgrounds because it's already kind of distressed and aged, and that's my preference. But please do go have a look because it's a fantastic kit. There is truly something for just about everybody. All right, let me put the paper aside. Okay, I even made myself notes because there's so many things. I'll show you how to create these, and they're beyond simple. It's actually a great craft to do with your kids or grandkids, or, if you're like me, a classroom teacher or Sunday school teacher or something like that. You could easily do this with your students. Just change the degree of the decoration that you do. So I'll show you how to do these first, and then I'll show you some of the different options that you have. Now, based on the size that I made, I wanted to house these Lindor truffle balls. And you can use any Christmas candy. You can make them larger, smaller, what have you. But I'm going to give you the dimensions for the ones that I made for a Christmas tree decoration. A mini Christmas tree. This is not a standard Christmas tree. Mini tree decoration, and then using these. But you can, like I said, alter the size of the containers based on what kind of Christmas candy you want to use, or Christmas treats. I guess it could be little toys or trinkets or notes or what have you. So it's really versatile that way. All right. Let's see, supplies. Supplies for this. I used about 3 yards of lace. And just because I used this one because I had quite a bit, and you can see I had, in fact, 2 rolls of it. Again, based on this size, I cut the lace. I know I have a note on my hand. I wanted to bring somebody a treat at school. I cut them in about 3-inch strips. They don't have to be exactly by any means, but I cut each piece in about 3-inch strips. And because there's 31, some December dailies will have 25 pages because they stop at Christmas, but I go all the way for the entire month of December, so I had 31. So it was about 3 yards, about 3 yards of lace. The paper, I cut those sheets of paper into 4 1/4 by 3 1/2 inch sections. And you can see, and I've got some printed on card. This is on the cardstock, and this is on the presentation paper. It's just a little thinner, but it's plenty sturdy for the candy bases, and it gives you a little wiggle room with folding. So if you print on card, you're great. If you print on this, you're great. It's personal preference, but that's what I did. I cut these again at 4 1/4 by 3 1/2, and I got 6 to a page. And because I wanted 31, I printed 6 pages. So I have 36 I have extra little bits in case I need a day with 2 candies or what have you. So that was my first step. I printed these. Then I used a 1 3/8 and a 2-inch circle punch. Now these are on the, let's see, these were the fussy cuts. I forgot to say that. I also used fussy cuts. I used fussy cuts for the images on the tags. And then I also used some just regular background paper, and I'll show you that. And so these are the size punches I used. You can use smaller circle punches if you're going to make smaller things, or larger circle punches. You can also fussy cut it, but for the sake of speed and ease, I use circle punches. Again, 2 inches and 1 3/8. Those are the sizes you'll see today. I'm going to get these out of the way now. put them in the punch bin. So I used those sizes. And here is what I got. These are the fussy cut images. And I just didn't fussy cut them. There's one that's decorated, one that's not. Here we go. There's a couple different. Well, heck, what did I do? Oh, here it is. Okay, so here it is, just a circle punch. There's no ink, there's no gilt, there's no G-I-L-T, not G-U-I-L-T. Gilded edges, there's no Nuvo crystal glaze. This is just a plain snowman of the fussy cuts. And you can see I didn't cut out his entire body. I just punched where I wanted to on this one. Here it is. Let's see, I had one with just ink and no gilt. That's maybe, oh, here it is. Okay, here we go. Then this is one that's just inked around the edges. So just plain paper, inked around the edges, and then here I'll use a snowman again. This one I've inked, and then I used rub and buff. I put a little bit of rub and buff on my finger and just put it around the edges and let it dry. And then while that was drying, I used, let's see if you can see it, I used Nuvo crystal glaze just on the hat and the scarf and the nose to make it pop out a little bit more. Again, I'm not sure how well you can see that. So there it is, three of the many different options. You can, depending on what you want to use it for and who you're making these with, you can decide which works, obviously best for you. These numbers for the Advent piece, I ordered from Amazon, and I wrote it so I wouldn't forget, came as 12 sheets of Planner Essentials clear numbers. And you got 12 sheets of this, and so there were three numbers 1 through 31 on each sheet. So 36 different number sets. And then this one's a circle one. Sorry again about the glare. And here it is as squares. Sorry about, got these little itty bits to show you in a bit with a different size. And then the kit came with these little itty bitty tweezers because they're small and it's easy to get your fingerprints on the back. With the tweezers, you can just pick them right up off the sheet and put them on your project. So if you're going to go bigger or smaller, these are still, the numbers are still a good size. I'm sure you can pick them up at other Michael's or Joann or Hobby Lobby or Artco or whatever craft store you have where you are. So those are those different options. And to create those, all I did was take my circle punch and punch these out and then decorate them accordingly. These are the little mini mice. I've got some extra bits of those and I've decorated those up. And I'll show you. So punched and decorated as much or as little as you want. So those, and I just did these first so that I could put them aside to dry completely while I did the bases. The bases, you do not have to score, but when you're creating these, there is a seam, and you can, I don't know how well you can see it, but there's a seam because of where you fold. And I didn't want that fold right at the crease because it tends to pop. And for that reason, based on this size alone, I scored my paper at 1 inch. So I've got each of these papers and I scored them at 1 inch. Now again, this is the matte presentation paper, the thinner paper. So I laid them all out, scored them all at 1 inch. I put face side down. It truly doesn't matter which side you do because I know that some people say you fold opposite of the mountain. So the crease side goes down, it folds easier. Other people say, no, do it the other way. As long as you fold it, you're happy. It'll work. So I did these at 1 inch. Did them all at 1 inch. You don't have to, you can just use fold. It's not essential. I guess I'll put it that way. Then I folded them all down. And you can use your bone folder, but you really don't have to because you don't need a sharp crease for this. Some projects you need a sharp crease for. This one you do not. So folding these down. And I did these assembly line, and that's why I'm showing you so many rather than just one, because you can see exactly how quick it is. And then again, the fold is just a guideline. If you go a little more or a little less, it won't matter in the least. I just didn't want that right where I folded it. So I laid them all out like this and folded them, okay? Then I glued them all at once. And when I did that, I'm going to reach across here. I used clear acrylic blocks. Now, some people use these for stamping, and I do too, I suppose, but I mostly use them for glue. And I'll show you what I mean by that. It doesn't take long, and it doesn't take much to dry them, but since I'm doing this assembly line, and again, I made 31. So I'm putting a line of glue close to the edge, but not exactly on the edge. And I'm folding it over. Personal preference. I use the grid. Maybe I'll zoom in just for a little bit. There we go. I use the grid on my background work mat. Sorry, you got the gold rub and buff there. As a guideline so that I can make sure these are straight. I will line the edge of my folded piece up on one of the lines, and then I'll grab the side and fold it over. And because of the size I made, if I do about 1/4 of an inch, if I put it in just about 1/4 of an inch, that gives me a 2-inch candy wrap, basically. So my candy wrap is folded over to 2 inches. So you can see there. When I put it on here, it's about 2 inches. A smidge more or less won't make any difference. So I do that, and then while that's, I just hold it in place to make sure that it dries completely while I go to the next ones. And again, I don't want to go over too far because I'm only having 1/4 of an inch overlap. And let me zoom back out before I forget. There you go, so you can see what I'm doing. I line it up with the edge of the page, fold it over, and it's about 2 inches, and then I'll put it on. And I do that for all of the pieces. And I'm doing these 6 for a specific reason, and I'll show you that in a minute. And it's all about options. You absolutely can do them one at a time. And I think if I were working with littles, I probably would do one at a time. But it's a super great, if you do a winter holidays around the world or Christmas around the world type craft with your students, whatever the students, you know, whatever you're teaching them for. Adults, one at a time is a great way to go. And again, this one is the cardstock weight, and the other is the presentation paper weight. It's a kind of a heavy-duty copy paper, I guess is a good way to put it. And again, 2 inches. So by the time I'm ready for my next round, this is going to be dry enough to work with. And that's kind of how I rotate them. Every once in a while, I'll put too much glue on. Let's see, can you see what I'm working on there? With those blocks there, it makes it kind of tough to see. I had a point and I lost it. Oh, every once in a while, the glue will seep, and so I'll show you the next step. But do that, and then this last one. And let's move it out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Go all the way down, and again, not right at the edge because you don't want the glue to seep out and glue your page closed or your wrap closed, but you don't want to go too far and have glue seep out the other side either. So at the edge, but not on top of the edge. And fold it over. All right, let those dry. All right, so while those are drying, what I'll do is I'll take my bone folder and I will make sure that I didn't get any glue seepage. I'll make sure it goes all the way through, that there's no adhered sides. If you get one side that's adhered, that's okay. You're going to glue it or sew it anyway. All right, so I've done that. I've got my bases ready to go. I need to zoom out just a little bit more. There we go. I am going to choose to sew these because I like to sew on them. You can glue them. You glue one side only. So if you were going to use these tubes like this, you would glue one side only. That's kind of important for the construction of it. But because I'm not going to glue them, I'm going to sew them, and I'm sewing them on purpose to show you an option, one of the decorative options. And I will put this cap in here. All right, standard stitch straight across. You can back stitch or not. That's completely up to you. But I'm going to put this in here and sew these. Yeah. And I have it on kind of a slow stitch so that I don't do something silly with this on camera. All right, so I've still got my piece that I just sewed in the machine. I'm going to lay the next one out, and I leave just a tiny bit of a gap between the two. I don't know how, let's see if I can angle that a little differently. Just a little bit of a gap between the two pieces. I don't know, maybe 1/4 of an inch or so, and then I'm going to keep sewing. You can sew them one at a time. You can glue them one at a time. This is an option that I wanted to show you so that you could see what else you might be able to do, or you might choose to do. And I just use the machine's presser foot as the guideline as to how far down to stitch. Whoops. Oh, I didn't backstitch that one. That's okay. Like I said, you don't have to backstitch. And then I'll put the next one down, and again, about the same thing at about 1/4 of an inch apart between them. Okay, this is a lot easier when I'm not on camera. Sorry guys, it really pretty straightforward. Okay, and again, there's only 6 here, so I promise it won't be too much longer. You can fast forward easily through this and not miss anything, but I wanted to show you something. I did all of mine in the same color because of the way I plan to decorate my tree, but you can use, each pattern paper can be a little different, or you can use solid colors. Whatever works for you there. And the last one. All right, I did it this way, one, because it's less cutting, stopping and cutting, but also because, pardon me, also because this gives you an option. So if I do it this way, I can make this a banner. I don't have to put it on, we're done. No, we're not done, so I can just move it aside a bit. You can turn this into a banner, right? You can hang it on your mantle or hang it across a wall, what have you, whatever you want. This string, I mean, I suppose if it got really heavy, it would tear or break, but it's pretty darn strong, and you're not putting a lot of weight on these. So you could put, instead of putting numbers on them, you could put letters like for Christmas or Merry Christmas or what have you. Work really well that way. If you are wanting to make a banner, just don't cut them apart. You put the candy or whatever you put into that you choose to put into them, do them one at a time, right? Just shove it on in, and that's the reason I made this length. And now you can see how it, when you put the dimensional candy in there, it automatically caused it to crease or to bulk out. See, so you have an envelope, or like a coin envelope this way. When you put the candy in, it makes it bulk the other way, and that is where you sew it closed, which is how you get this like mini sour cream tube dimension. And I'm going to sew just this one to show you what I mean. So I've got it in there. It fits plenty good. There's plenty of room, but it's not too big or bulky, and I'll sew just this edge. I'm not moving the camera back into screen, but you can see I'm doing that. Well, maybe I should, because you can see that it's really not very hard or bulky. I just lay it down and do the same thing. I'm going to use my guide on my presser foot to sew along that edge. Okay. And then I would do that assembly line as well. And snip off the extra threads, or you can leave the threads if you're a thread person. And that is how you make the candy wrap base. And okay, I can move that out of the way now. Oh, wait a minute, that blocked that light switch. So there we go. And that is how you make the candy base. And it looks just like this. And you can do the same thing all the way along if you want to make this into a banner, right? And it fits easily. Just put subsequent candies in each one and sew it closed. So there's an option of choice. And that is how you make them. Once they're done, you can make them as distressed or shabby as you like. You can use a distress tool or scissors and rough up the edges. You can, I'm going to put that back to don't lose it. You can use your ink and ink the edges. I inked mine because I like ink, but just ink all 4 edges. And that is your candy tube. To put the number and date on them. So here's the 2-inch circle punch, and here is the 1 3/8. And because of the images I had and the sizes I had, I wanted to mix it up a little bit. Both are going to fit in my journal just fine. If you're making smaller ones, you'd probably want to go with smaller circles, and if you can use the larger circles if you're going to go on a larger tree or use it for larger decor. It works just fine either way. All right, so the next step, once you've got them sewn closed or glued closed, you can also, here, I've got one over here, I'll show you. You can, now I cut this right close to the edge, but let me grab another candy. Put the candy inside, shove it closed, and see, like I said, it makes an automatic breach piece there. I will glue this one to show you that you can glue it. For those who ask, this is just a piece of Velcro, sticky back of Velcro on the side of my glue bottle because I tend to lose the pin if I don't do that. So I'm going to glue the edge. I don't know if you can see that. You have a little less wiggle room with that. And then you can clamp it closed or just hold it. It doesn't take long to dry at all. Okay. Pin in top. There we go. Close. So clamp it closed, glue closed. Like I said, you can distress it, you can leave it flat, or you can use some of your decorative edge scissors if you have a bunch of these, and just take off the very tip, and that gives you kind of a fun decorative edge. Look really pretty on the tree. That might be a fun one to do if you're doing it with a class or even for yourself, whichever. So how you edge that is also just preference and what looks you like and such. Okay, scissors away so I don't lose them. And that is the base. All right, to make this piece, what I did, I'll grab one of these. Here's one that's done. I'll show you how I can cut that one. So I've got these. This one goes back in there because I'm actually going to use those in my tree. The way I did it was I took one of the 3-inch, roughly 3-inch strips of lace, and I did use the rub and buff on one piece of lace, but it just looked like I got my fingers dirty, and so I left the lace blank. I had it to show you, but I moved it aside. All right, take the lace, folded it in half just because I liked that look, took one of the completed dried circles, laid it right, let's see if I can zoom in a bit, laid it right on top, and then on your candy bag somewhere there is a crease, and sometimes it's hard to see. Here you go, here's the crease, right? I want that crease in the back, on the back side, so I just moved it to the back. And this is what I was talking about regarding sewing it. See how my crease is not right at the edge? If you put, when you're folding your paper, if you put the crease right in the very middle, that'll be right on the edge of your candy wrapper, and it causes it to gap just a little bit, which is why I scored it where I did at 1 inch. So you can see it's not centered and it's on the back and it doesn't show much at all. All right, then I layered these like this, just layered the 3 pieces together, layered it right on top. Eyelets, I'll talk to you about eyelets in just a second. But I then used my super micro mini punch because I wanted a small one because of the profile for this and because of the size eyelets I had. Punch to the hole. Let me get one of these Incy Deensy micro. I don't even know how big these are, okay? Super duper duper tiny eyelets. And where did I put those tweezers? All right, I put them down in where they belong, and now I of course can't find them. I'll use a different pair. Tweezers are super handy if you're working with these itty bitty micro eyelets because they are so tiny they're difficult to see. I was going to go with something a little bigger, but I ordered the wrong size, and I'll show you in a minute. So I just put the eyelet connecting all 3 layers together. And then because of the size eyelet that I've used here, I need to use, I can't use my crimper, the chomper eyelet setter, the We Are Memory Keepers one. I have to use my spring-loaded one. And it's going to be loud. I apologize, but it'll be just one loud thing. And so there's a super, super tiny tip on this that comes with 3 different size options. There's a super tiny one. I just put it in and wiggle it back and forth to make sure that it's inside the hole of the eyelet. Down once, and it splits this tiny eyelet into like a flower pattern, and that holds it in place. Then I used a bulb pin, and that eyelet, even that tiny size, is big enough for a bulb pin. And I put the bulb pin through, and that is how I did each one. Now, I would probably, and I probably will, put a little bit of gold. I don't have the right color right now, but a little bit of gold ribbon or thread to make a tiny bow there. You could buy pre-made bows. I know that Hobby Lobby has a whole bunch of the pre-folded bows, and you could just put through the bulb pin, before you thread the bulb pin through this completed bit, put one of those bows right on there, and you'd have a little bow at the top for hanging on a tree or giving as a gift. I would, add that one extra layer. It's not necessary, but it just gives it a little bit of a finishing touch. Then I purchased from Hallmark these miniature ornament hooks. I grew up saying ornament, and I have to stop myself sometimes. Same thing with cinnamon. Miniature ornament hooks from Hallmark. They were a couple bucks for 25, I believe. And then I would use this if I were putting it on a tree, just so that it hangs on the tree nicely. You can use the bulb pin, but it just makes it a little bit more difficult to get on the actual branch. And again, I'd put a little, maybe tie a bow there, or pre-made bows, and ready to hang it on a tree. Or leave it on the banister or what have you. Just to kind of finish that off. And that is how we did that. Eyelets. They used to be a lot easier to find, and this was a Making Memories or Recollection one. And I don't even know what size it is. Really small, right? Really, really tiny. And then I have some that are just a little bit bigger. And then there's the small eyelets, and I had to order them through Amazon because I couldn't find them at Joann or Hobby Lobby or Craft. Maybe a Craft Warehouse would have them, but that's just a local Pacific Northwest chain. So there's the super, super tiny. There's one that's a little bit bigger. There is a 2mm size, which is what I've ordered and didn't come in. These are the dressmaker eyelets that are 5/32, and they would be great for a bigger, like if I were doing a 2.5-inch circle or something, because otherwise you lose the image, you lose too much space. And then I thought I was ordering micro mini ones, and this is what I got. Yeah, ginormous. So if you don't have eyelets, or if you're wanting to use eyelets, just be conscious of the size that you choose and the tools that you have. So there you go. There's my eyelet story for you. All right, now how to use these. Okay, super Christmas decoration, fun, but how do I use them as in my December daily or embellishment for a page? After you've gotten to that day, or you take the candy out, you cut right. One of the reasons I go close to the edge is you cut right along the bottom to take your candy out, right? Cut right along the bottom, take your candy out, enjoy your candy, except that might be dark chocolate, and I don't enjoy dark chocolate. And voila, you have a flat embellishment. You can decorate the edge and put this right in your junk journal. You can use it as a tuck if you want to. You can close it off. You can fold it up to make a little itty bitty pocket, right? Fold it up and then, tuck a little gift card or a journaling card or something right inside there. You can use that because you've got a little opening there. And then just put it down in your book exactly like that. So, it's still fairly flat. It still works. Okay, the no ink is going to make me nuts just because the other side has ink. And you can see where it lays flat. And you lay it flat like that. And there's your page embellishment. All right, so that is the construction. That is how I made them. The materials that I used. Now I'm going to show you how I'm going to use them, and I'm going to move this aside a little more. Sorry about that light. Let's see, this is one that goes in there. One of the things that I did, and I didn't finish it intentionally because I wanted the focus to be on the embellishment piece. How in the world, Corey, did you make a 35-minute video on that quick project? Well, I guess that's just kind of the way I work. All right. I am going to use them for, let's see if I can zoom out a little bit more. Let me push that light aside. All right, I showed this mini tree, right? Well, since I showed this mini tree, I cut the bottom off. I meant to print the pictures and show you. I just cut the plastic bottom off because I had an idea. And this is how I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it as a vignette because I've got some really fun mini Christmas stuff, Tim Holtz. So I had this wooden box. It was just a thrift store find, wooden supply box, right? Thrift store find. I spray painted it white, off-white, I guess, and I drilled a hole in the top. And the hole is drilled to fit this metal piece. And you're not going to be able to see it from there, but I didn't glue it in place to show you. See, so you can see that wire on the bottom. Now, Corey, great. How is your tree going to stand up? Well, I made it a mini tree stand. So I drilled a hole in a scrap piece of wood. And when I'm ready to put the whole thing together, I put that scrap piece of wood right on the bottom to hold the tree like a tree stand would. Okay, I think you can see that there. And then I would just put some Gorilla Glue inside that and hold it in place until it's dry. Then, Corey, who wants to see a wooden block inside there? I made this panel. It's kind of just to fit the opening. It's a recessed panel, and I'll put paper and Merry Christmas or some Christmas wish or maybe Christmas music on it, and then I'll pop that right in the front so that you don't see the base or the box and how it stands up. And then I'll put the vignettes on either side. One side is going to be my mini Christmas journal, right? I deliberately made these pockets to fit inside the journal, the December Daily, and one of the sides is going to hold the little mini journal, and then the other side will be a scene, maybe Christmas books or a Christmas wrapping, or I don't know, snowman outside, whatever. It'll be a Christmas scene. And I thought that'd be a fun decoration that I could use year after year. Just make new little ornaments, and there you go. If you had, I used what I had. This is what I had at home, so this is what I used. But I also went to the thrift store, and I'll put lights and tinsel and all that, the Tim Holtz mini lights. I also went to the thrift store to see, well, what could I find already done? This is one of the ones that you put on a door, I guess. It was already lit. I just had to put batteries in. And lights up. It's kind of pretty, but this one's a little bit shorter and smaller, and I did the same idea because the base of this was a little bigger because of the way it was made. I just used a Forstner bit and made a bigger hole, and I've got this propped in here, so let's see. Just got to push it back out. I made it snug. Oh, okay, I made it really snug. It actually does fit. Oh, there we go. And this one I did a little bit differently because I don't need anything to hold this in place. It's really big and bulky. And when I'm ready, I can just glue that right in there. This is an extra drawer that I found just at a thrift store and painted it or stained it, right? And then I'm going to hold that in place like that. And then I did the same thing. But this one, rather than having to do a hole in it as a tree stand that way, I just did a block. And I put the block right in front. And again, it's a little bit recessed. And then I'll decorate this panel. And then I've got the pocket on the bottom, or the shelf on the bottom, for Christmas books. You know, or names of Christmas movies, what have you. Christmas songs, a little songbook. And another option. Only this one, okay, I don't know where I put it, darn it, is a little bit smaller. Oh, here we go. No, that's not the one. So I made a sample for you. Oh, here we go, a little itty bitty sample. So this is a much smaller one. And if you use the smaller scale pieces, like I just use circle punches, but you don't have to. This is what I was going to show you. I printed these little tickets smaller, right? This is the 5/8, no, Corey, try it again. 5/7 size. Printed to a picture 5/7. And you can see I just printed, that was from one of the ephemera bits. Still the little Advent number fit on there. Still attach it the same way, but it's just a little bit smaller. I can still use, you know, like a little offcut of lace. This is maybe an inch wide, an inch big. Still put that back in the background, put the whole thing together, and then I could use that for a smaller tree. So if you've got a tiny tree, you can make these. And I'd put a smaller candy in there, right? Same exact idea. And then just hang them using the ornament hook on the tree. All right, so I think that's all. I'm going to look at my list because I'm capable of messing that up. Gifts, glue, scissors, edged, and plain mixed media. Oh, these. So if you're more of a mixed media person, you can splatter these, you can ink these, you can make these, you can, instead of using printed paper. And I chose this size because of scale. This was one of the smaller prints. You can use, you know, the striped print or the polka dotty print or what have you. If you're making bigger candy holders, you can use the larger print. I wanted the smaller print because of the scale that I'm working with. All right, I have talked incessantly. I really hope that gave you an idea and showed you how easy this project is to do, how versatile and how fun. Please watch the other videos, support Rachel, and thank you, Rachel, for hostessing this. And take care all. Happy holidays and happy creating.